Got the fire picked back up, and the dogs inside. They've been good this whole time, but they heard the neighbor dogs and they were getting excited. But back to some of the lessons that I try to take away from that. The first one is staying calm in the chaos of whatever you're going through. This is one thing I think I somewhat did right. Um, in the moment, or whenever it was actually happening, I was trying to be really non-reactive in a way, and that's something like the insurance lady I was talking to. She commented on. She's like, I don't know how you're so calm, and I was like, yeah, thanks, whatever. But when I called my mom, I did start to freak out a bit, and I was just like, oh, and your fight or flight response is triggered in these moments, and our bodies, our brain is hardwired to do that, to protect you so you can survive, to focus on the negative. But in our lives today, it's a lot of the time it's your brain is misidentifying something. So if you can stay calm, if you can fight your flight or fright response and stay calm in the moment, you can make a lot better decisions, and typically people will have a lot of respect for you if you can do that. Not saying that should be what other people's thoughts about you should be your prime motivator or anything, but it's a added bonus, really. And it can also, your fight or flight response can also prevent you from taking meaningful action, especially if your response is flight. Or I know a lot of people throw in the third option, freeze. If your reaction is to freeze, then it's not going to go well. So if you can fight your instincts there, it can be hard to do the first couple of times, but just like with anything, if you can practice it in certain and at a small scale, it can really benefit you whenever the real moment comes. And in that, also just controlling the controllables. You can't, like in that situation, I couldn't control what another driver did. All I could do is control what my response was to it. And for the most part, that is what I focused on. I tried to make sure that the other people were okay. That's what I could do in that moment, and I wasn't rude or anything to them. Now, I'm not saying if someone deserves some rudeness for you, that you shouldn't. Now, certainly, there's many situations where if you can keep a calm head, it'll serve you well. But like, even if you need to physically respond to something, you should have a calm head. You shouldn't be freaking out or just being angry. Because when you act out of emotion, you'll do things you'll regret. It's that simple. And last little sub point on this larger point. If you can be kind in unfortunate situations, it'll also serve you well. And like, a lot of people's natural response is to get angry, to be mad. And I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but a lot of the times the situation definitely doesn't require it, and it doesn't help anything if you're just being an obnoxious, rude person. It just doesn't help. And, you know, if in those moments, if you can try to take a look from someone else's perspective, sometimes it's being too generous, but a lot of the times people don't mean to do harm to you. That's a lot of the times it's just an unfortunate situation where they misjudged something, and like that girl, it was a teenage girl with her mom. She was learning to drive, and she made a bad judgment call, or she also wore glasses, so I don't know how much that played a role. But she wasn't like she meaningfully T-boned my truck. It was a mistake, and there needs to be accountability, but you don't have to yell and scream and have a mean heart about it. But anyway, all that kind of wraps up into staying calm in chaotic situations. And then the second thing that I took from it is God can take unfortunate situations and turn them into something beautiful. Like the prime part of that in my mind is the fact that my insurance company somehow valued that thing at twice what I paid for it. And I know some companies will be like, oh, we'll pay for a model year newer or whatever. I don't know if that was part of my policy. Maybe it was. But I wasn't expecting it. And part of staying calm is trusting that it's going to be okay. And that God's got you. And goodness, did he have my back that day. And the subsequent days following it. Without that, if I had to come up with a couple $1,000s to find a vehicle, I could have done it in a month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on stuff that was the vehicles that were available. And he just took so much of that burden away and was able to help me pay off my debt that I've been working on for over 2 years, or almost 2 years at that point. Man, that was such a blessing to be rid of that. And, you just, before you freak out, something I'm I have to remind myself of all the time. Before you freak out and could start catastrophizing whatever situation, just take some deep breaths and really just think about, all right, this terrible situation that I'm thinking of in my head, is that what's really happening? Is that reality? Is that what's playing out in front of me? A lot of times it's not. It's just what you think is the logical product of the current situation. But a lot of times you can find aspects of that you can control and prevent the catastrophe from happening in the future. You can be like, okay, Lord, help show me how I can take this bad situation and turn it into something good. It's not always going to be, oh, I got a $7,000 check for my truck. Sometimes you have to put in work for it. And like I would argue, me paying off my debt, selling the truck that I had financed, and getting that paid for vehicle was putting in the work that later God used to pay off for me. But yeah, again, we are hardwired to focus on the negative to try to survive, and you have to intentionally have different thoughts with a different perspective. I know my mother will appreciate hearing that, because she was telling me that the other day. I was just like, dang, you're right. This is something I've told other people that I should pay attention to, remind myself of. But anyway, then the last point is, what if that truck was financed? Like, what if, shoot, my current truck, what if that thing ends up getting T-boned? You know, that thing's in the hole as far as equity goes. Am I going to get all that money back? You know, I haven't had to deal with this situation myself, so maybe, you know, the insurance company will be like, okay, how much you owe on it, and they'll just pay that off. Maybe. I don't know. It's not guaranteed. You know, when you're in these situations, a lot of times you're at the behest of someone else. Someone else has control of the situation, and you just have to kind of deal with it and react to it as you can. But if that's the situation, then I put myself in a hard spot, you know. Instead of, oh, whatever, it just puts you in such a different mentality. If you have a vehicle that's paid off and you get in a wreck and it's like, all right, I'll figure it out. You know, if it's financed, then you have a whole bunch of other crap to think about and consider and worry about. And some of it, a good bit of it, you can't control yourself. And that, you know, it's not a good situation to be in. So it really just kind of makes you think about the decisions you make as far as whether you're going to finance something or pay for it in cash or whatever the deal is. You know, having debt isn't worth it. I told you last week about the ordeal with that current truck, so I won't repeat it, but anyway, that's what I got for today. I appreciate y'all watching. If you made it this far in the video, one of these days I'll have the cigars back. I'm out of them for the moment. But you know, them things are expensive. You got to be careful about when you pick them up and which ones you get. But they'll be back one of these days. Fire's quietly smoldering over there. I imagine you didn't hear much popping and crackling because of all the wind. I hope it wasn't too annoying for you. I'm gonna try to be close to my microphone and speaking into it and all that good stuff. But anyway, I'll see y'all again next week. That should be the last of our unfortunate vehicle saga, whatever I called it a minute ago. But we'll do that story, and because it's a good one. It has some valuable lessons in it as well. And my good friend, he'd want me to call him Xander now, but my good buddy Dobie. It'd be a good one. Anyway, I'll shut up. Y'all have a great week. I love you. Bye.